and welcome back to my channel. Before I start the video, I want to say something because I already filmed the intro and I wanted to apologize for being away for so long. I started this project I think 2 months ago or something, but my health got really worse and I wasn't able to finish the dress, let alone the video, so I couldn't sew or film or whatever. Maybe you know that I'm only awake 6 hours a day and I have to live my whole life in those 6 hours, and my energy was really that bad that I could do hardly anything, and that makes it really difficult to also sew and film and do what else I have to do. So I haven't done anything in a few weeks, and I just finished the dress and it looked really nice, and I managed to film the end result with a bit of fun and bubbly, but it took me really a lot of effort. So the video is done. I'll show you how it looks. But I must say, I don't think that I will be able to upload every other week that I did before. I did every week. That will certainly not be possible. But also every other week will be very difficult for me the way my health is now. But I still will certainly keep this challenge because I really like to do it. I like to make things. I like to show you how you can recreate things you see in the shops. And I just don't know how often I can upload. So when you put your notifications on, you get notified when I have another video on. And when I can go back to my old schedule, I will let you know, and then that will be every other week. But for now, I'm really not sure. Maybe it will be once a month, maybe even less, maybe more. Maybe sometimes it goes better, maybe sometimes it goes worse. My condition is a very uncertain one, and it can really get worse even than this, but it can also get better. I don't know. You don't know for sure how it will develop, so I'll just see how it goes. I will try to make videos whenever I can, and well, watch the next video. I hope you like it. It is a really funny one, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your patience, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I saw this beautiful dress in a magazine, and it reminded me of this dress that I made early in the beginning of my channel with this really big flounce in the front and in the back. And it was an experiment, but it turned out to be way easier than I thought it would be. So I saw that dress and I thought, oh, I would like to make that too, because it also has these flounces, but then just on the skirt. And a few weeks ago I made a dress out of Scuba material, Scuba fabric, and I'd never used that before, and it turned out to be a really nice fabric to work with. It falls very nicely, it sews very easily, so I really fell in love with that kind of fabric. And I always thought, well, it's a kind of wetsuit material, so why would I make clothing out of it? But it's really nice material. I'm not sure yet how it will wear because the weather hasn't been good enough to wear that dress, but it feels like a very nice fabric. So I immediately ordered another Scuba material to make this dress, and I got this one. And that was a disappointment because this just feels and looks and falls like just the normal old-fashioned polyester fabric that I really hate. It has some elastin in it, so it is stretchy, but it is really not a fabric that I like, and maybe you can see it. It's just the old-fashioned 100% polyester, almost 100% polyester, and I'm really not a fan of it. So I thought, well, how can I find then the Scuba that I bought for the dress, because I want that same kind of material now. And I sorted it out, but it just says 98% polyester, 2% elastin, and that's it. And also the weight of the fabric was the same. So I didn't know what to buy. So what I did, I went to another fabric store online, and I bought another Scuba material, and then I got this. And again, this is that old-fashioned plain polyester fabric that I hate. That is itchy, that is sweaty, really not nice. But now I have 2 bulks of fabric because I bought 4 meters of each, and it is not the Scuba that I want. And I will link up here and down below in the description box that dress that I made a few weeks ago out of the Scuba material that I really wanted. But if you want to make something out of Scuba, make sure you can go to the store, you can feel it, you can see it. that you are sure that you get the scuba that you want, because it is not this. And I don't know how I can find the right one. I don't know how I can advise you, because I cannot find the difference in the description of the fabric, in the weight of the fabric. So you can just go to the store, feel it and touch it, but I have to order online. So I have now 2 fills. But well, I have lots of fabric now. I know I want to make out of this one next time. And I'm gonna use this one for this beautiful dress, and I hope it turns out, because this is really a rather thin, flowy material that I didn't want, because I don't know how the flounces will be. This one is a talenka, and that's a rather thick fabric, and I could make the flounce just single layered, or almost single layered. It turned out very easy. This one will probably be very difficult, and you saw in the thumbnail maybe already, and also in the intro, how the dress turned out. Maybe it was just a complete fail, but I'm gonna try it. I don't know yet, obviously, so I hope it will work out. Maybe I will have to do the things that I thought I would have to do for this dress with horsehair things. Maybe it turns out good. I don't know. I'm just gonna try it and I'll see how it goes. I can advise you, if you want to make the dress, what you can do different or what you can use different. Certainly try to find the really thicker, more sturdy scuba that I was looking for, that the flower dress had, because I think that material is ideal for this dress, for all these flounces here on the skirt. So I'm gonna try to recreate it, and we will see how this will turn out. So I hope you like it, and I show you now the inspiration picture and the dress that I really fell in love with. And if you like to recreate this dress, I will link it also up here and down in the description box. It is very easy to make. It is almost just the basic pattern of the dress, and then just this flounce also was very easy. So it's not really difficult, although it looks very complicated. It is really not, but you have a really fabulous dress when you make this one. So, and you can just use a normal talenka or something like this. This falls very good the way I wanted it to be, so you can use that. So this is that beautiful dress that I saw in a magazine, and I looked it up on their website. It is from Elisabetta Franchi, if I say that right. And look at that skirt. It is so pretty with all those flaunches. It retails for 522 euros, so that's about $620, I think. I'm gonna try to recreate all those flaunches on the skirt. I'm not sure how my fabric will do, because it's always just trial and error. It's the same with the white dress that I just wore. I just have to see how my fabric does. I saw that they made the flaunches double fabric, so maybe I will have to do that too. But I really love how this looks, so I'm really gonna try to recreate it as much as this looks like. I make the skirt longer because I think this is just really short. I make it just above the knee. I think that's more flattering when you're not 20 anymore. And I'm also gonna change the top part, because I'm not a fan of the corset style. Way back in the day I made many corset dresses and corset tops, but I don't like it anymore. I don't like how it looks now on me, and I don't like how it wears. So I make a more dressier top part of the dress than this one. Certainly, of course, a zipper in the back, we need that to get in and out. But I'm just gonna focus on those flounces on the skirt, because I hope I can get them as flowy and as like waves as in this dress. So I'm gonna try and see how my fabric works, what it does, what it doesn't want to do, and I'm just gonna try to recreate this, and I'll show you in the drawing how I'm gonna make this dress in length and with the top part. And my drawings are always not very inviting for making this dress, and this particularly was a very difficult one for me. But I tried, so I hope you understand what I want to make. I tried to draw the ruffles, the flounces here on the skirt, but of course I don't know how to draw that. But you know how the bottom part will be. It will be the base of the skirt will be just a straight on skirt with some darts in the front and in the back too. So that's straight on, and then we sew the flounces on top of that skirt. So you have a base with the flounces on top. And I must say, I'm still not very sure how to attach the flounces to the skirt, so I will have to figure that out somehow when I'm sewing it down, because I don't really know how to do it without seeing the seam allowance, so I have to see that. But then the top, I make a top with princess seam, so it's nicely fitted. I really want it fitted to the body, so not too tight but really nicely fitted. I want to make some cap sleeves that we cut onto our shoulder seam, so we don't get an extra seam for a sleeve. So they are rather short or almost not existing. And I want a rounded neck, and I don't want it too high, but I'm not sure how low I can go. I like it more when my neck holes are more lower down, because that elongates you, and because I'm very short it gives me more length. But I'm not sure with this fabric how low I can go, so maybe it will be just a higher neckline. If I can lower, I will go lower. And then for the back, we also here have our darts in the skirt part and in the bodice part. We have a zipper in the mid back, and then of course the cut on cap sleeves, and also the flounces in the back. I don't know how that will be when you're sitting down. I'm not sure if that will be very comfortable, but I'm just gonna make it and I'll see. This is just not a casual dress, so we'll see how it goes, and maybe it just flattens down when you sit down, I'm not sure. And I make the length, as I said, just above the knee, so not really that short, but if you like that more, of course you can make it really short. I don't think you can make it really long. I don't think that will be nice, so I make it just above the knee. Pattern. We will need our basic pattern for a top, and I will link up here and down below in the description box how you can make that basic pattern to your own size and body type, if you haven't done that already. And what you can do is you put that on top of another piece of paper. If you're confident, then do it just straight on onto your fabric, then you can save more paper. And what you do is you trace your shoulder seam, you trace your side seam all the way down, and you can trace your armhole, and then also trace your darts, because we're going to use that now. And of course for the front part, because we use the darts, use here the bottom armhole, because the top one is for the back pattern. Then we're going to make some adjustments to this. What I did first is I lowered down my neck hole in the front, and I made it wider too. You can see it was till here, so I lowered it down just a little bit, just 1 centimeter, even less. But I made it quite more wide, because it was like this, and I made it just 2 centimeters wider. So I took just my my ruler and I marked it down. I don't even know what curve I used because I cannot find it now. But just any curve you can do. You can make it flatter or you can make it wider, whatever you like. Just give it a nice curve that is a little bit elongated, your neck hole in the front. Then what I did is I made my shoulder seam that ends here longer, so that I have some kind of a cap sleeve. And again, you can do that with your ruler. Just give it a nice curve. I elongated it with 8 centimeters from the end of the shoulder seam. And then I made a curve back down to where just about my dart begins. So then you have a nice small cap sleeve with a more wider neck hole. Then I first marked my normal darts, like on the basic pattern, so the straight on darts. But what I did, I made some adjustments because I want to make princess seams, and we're gonna cut them open and then sew them together. So it will not be just a dart here and a dart here. What I did, the dart first was going like this to the apex. Now what I did is I rounded out this bottom line, going down to the left part of the bottom dart. So instead of making that sharp end here at the apex, I rounded it out, that you have a nice rounded seam here. And then you cut that off, or you cut that open here. And then for the upper part of the dart, I again made that line, but then I rounded it out down to the right side, or for your vision, the left side of the bottom dart. And also you're gonna cut that in, that you have two separate pieces, and you're gonna connect that here in that princess seam. Then the dart on the bottom, on the skirt part, I just left it normal, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it off here at the waistline, because I want really a separate skirt part and a separate bodice part. So just at the waistline you can just cut it off, and then you have your altered front pattern. So not really difficult to do, just make some adjustments. Then for the back part, again you trace your basic pattern with the darts for the back. Of course you don't use this dart here on the top, on the bodice, so use the upper part of your armhole seam. I mirrored it down so that I have a left and a right to show you. Then what I did, I also lowered down a bit and made wider my neck hole, because it was 1 centimeter higher and it was around 2 centimeters smaller. So I made it wider here and I made it lower there, so that again here I have a more wider and a more lower neckline. Here I'm going to cut on the same cap sleeve as I did in the front. I didn't draw it yet, because I just want to cut this one out, then place it on top of this, so that I have exactly the same curve as here in the front. So before I cut this out, first I mirror this sleeve onto my back pattern. Then your side seam is just the same. You have your darts, you cut off here the skirt part, and then make sure your skirt is long enough, because I have to elongate it with 11 centimeters, otherwise my skirt is too short. And those are the two patterns for the basic dress, for the front and for the back. So I placed it now on top of a wooden table, because otherwise you couldn't see it, because the white on white didn't show up really well. But I cut my patterns out, and you see I cut the side part loose from the mid front, and when I connect them here at the apex, you see this was a dart and that was a dart, and now it is a nicely curved line, and here also just a rather straight line with a curve here in the middle. So you get two pieces for the bodice part. Then I cut off the skirt part with the dart, of course, and we put these on the fold. And then for the back I just only cut off my skirt part, and I traced the sleeve of my front onto my back pattern, so that I have the same fold as I have for the same shape as I have for the front. So this will be the patterns that you need. So make sure you make your front bodice now in two pieces. Then for the flounce, I hope you can see it, because my pen doesn't really draw that thick of a line. What I'm gonna do, I made this tracing onto a piece of paper, because my fabric is way too big to show it on camera. But what I do is, the width of my fabric is 75 centimeters on the double. And I make that 75 centimeters high, so that I get a square like this piece of paper. And then I make a circle as big as I can on that rectangle. And then I make another circle in the middle of that has exactly the width, or the width of the flounce that I want to have. And I want my flounces to be just about 12 centimeters high. So that means the part that is sticking out to the outside, so not where the height of the skirt, but the height that is sticking out from the skirt. So I make mine around 12 centimeters. I think I have to see with my fabric how high I want them to be. But say it is 12 centimeters, then I make a new circle inside that outer circle, 12 centimeters within. So I make here another circle. And then again 12 centimeters within, I make another circle. And if I have room enough, I make another one, just until I don't have place enough to have that 12 centimeters width apart from the circles. So then when you cut that out, you get a spiral. And what you do is you start cutting from the outside circle, and you go all around. And then when you've cut that circle out, what you do is you start cutting inside to the next circle. So you make a bit of a curve and you cut to that inner circle. And then you cut that out, not all the way to the end, but I'll show you where to stop. You see now here my outer circle is going in, and I must make sure that I keep my 12 centimeters from the end of my outer cut piece. So I have to stay 12 centimeters from here. So cutting here, I must make sure that I go in here so that I keep the 12 centimeters from the edge. So I just keep on cutting and I watch where the cutting is here from my outer circle, and I go in again in that curve to the next circle. And then again you just keep on cutting until you're almost at the end, and then you go back to the next circle. So now I'm reaching my end. I don't have a circle anymore, but I'll just do as if. So I cut again, going in, and then at the end of your spiral you just go to the middle. And then when I would pick this up, I think you can see that it is a spiral. And what you do then, and you have just a really long strip, and for that white dress that I wore in the intro, I just needed two very long strips, so I only had to cut them in two. But now I need more pieces, because I need more pieces that are the height of my skirt, and my skirt is 50 centimeters long. So I need to cut this whole spiral into pieces of 50 centimeters. And you do that by, here is the end or the beginning of my spiral. You measure on the bottom of your circle, so not on the outer edge of your circle, but the inside of your circle. You measure that amount of length of your skirt, so for me 50 centimeters. And when you have 50 centimeters, say that it is here, then you cut that off again on an angle, because you don't want the end of your flounce to be straight on. So again, you cut that off on an angle until you reach that 50 centimeter mark. And then you have one flounce. And the funny thing is, when you put this curved bottom part on a straight piece of fabric, it will get these folds. I don't know if you can see that. Well, you can see it a bit. So the inner circle of your spiral will be where you connect it to your skirt. And this is of course not really a nice line, but something like that. It doesn't have to be precise, but this is somewhat what you need. And then you go to the next part. So you clean up a little bit this dirty corner, that it's nice and flowy. Again, you measure the bottom of your circle to that 50 centimeters or however you need for the length of your skirt. And again, you cut that off on a diagonal. And then you have the second piece of your flounce. And you did it all the way with your whole spiral. And I cut this on the double, so that means that every piece of flounce is a double piece, so it has another part on the bottom. So make sure you pin them down together so that you are sure that you keep the same flounces together, because yeah, I cut it very badly now, but because the circle is going in, the flounces here in the middle will be more curved than the flounces here on the outside. That is not a problem, because I think that even looks nicer on the skirt, because otherwise all the flounces will be the same and they will all just curve in the same curve and they will fall together. And when they have a different curve, one will go like this and the other will go like this. I think that looks more nice. It's the same as when you curl your hair. You don't want all the curls to fall together as one big curl. You want all the curls to be different, and you get that when you make the spiral for the flounces. But make sure that the top and the bottom fabric are pinned down, that you have your same flounce on the other side. If you need to make them doubled up, maybe you can do it just single layered, then it's even easier, but make sure you pin them down just in case. So that's how you make your flounces. See how many you need. I'm not sure yet how many I will make, but make as much as you need. Just do it like this and just keep on cutting until your whole spiral is done, and then you have really nice flounces. So So I cut all my pieces, and I decided to cut my front bodice twice because my fabric is so thin that I think it will be more nice when it has a little bit more structure and not your bra shining through or something. At least the structure of your bra. So I make a double, but you won't see it because I will do that just for myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach the side front bodice to the mid front bodice, and make sure you mark where your apex is because those have to be connected very precisely, and then you pin all around. So I did it already on this side. First you pin on your apexes and then you go to the ends on both sides, and make sure that you don't stretch out one of the pieces because you see it is like this, it is almost fitting, but you have to connect them like this, and then you have a curve like this and a curve like that. So it takes a bit of try how to make them connected, but make sure you just pin enough to get that whole curve in, and make sure that you just don't stretch out to match the other part. Just do it bit by bit. You see here I have a lot of pins just on this small piece, but then you can very nicely just connect them without stretching out one of the parts. So pin them together, and then when you have sewn them, you can, I haven't sewn this yet, just pin this, then you can flip them over and press the seam allowance to that side, so say to the middle, and then you can press that very nice and flat, that you have a really nice front bodice with that curve that you want here with the princess seam. So sew them on, and then press iron your pieces, your seams. And then you can also already make the darts in the back patterns, and you do that by, I always put my top pin just going straight through the fabric. You match up those two, and then when you pull here on that top one, you match those two up, then you get a really nice straight line where you can sew your dart. So you just line them up, and when you pull here, you see you get that really nice fold here, and then you can pin that and sew that down. And I have a sewing class on how to make your darts the professional way, so if you want to watch that, I'll link it up here and down in the description box. There you can see how to make your darts really nice and get a really nice result. So you can do those too. My princess seams in the front, the darts in the back, and now you have some options. We are certainly gonna sew the shoulder seams first, so match them up and sew them together. And then what you can do is you can first sew your side seams, and then later on connect your skirt parts. What I'm gonna do is I like to first finish my skirt parts, so sewing all the darts in the front and the back pieces of the skirt, and then first connect my skirt parts to the front bodice and the back bodice, and then do my side seams, because then I can try it on and see if I have to take in my side seams somewhere, and I can do that all the way down from the bodice into the skirt. And also what you can do when you try it on then is see if you have to take in your princess seams. And I think I will do that now already, because now you can, when you just pin your side seams, you can try the bodice on, and you have sewn your shoulder seams, and you can see if you have to take in here somewhat, because I often have to take it in here a little bit more to the armhole, and sometimes you also need to take in some here at the waist. And this is now a nice moment to do that when you have sewn your shoulder seams, and then you can see if you want to make your side seams first, or first put your skirt part on and then do your side seams. So now I'm going to pin the skirt part through my bodice part. So the front to the front, just normal right sides together. Make sure your darts are matching up from the skirt and the bodice, and then both the back pieces to the back bodice. And what I'm going to do now, first you can sew your side seams, but I like to start with my zipper in the back, because I have a blind zipper, and that means that you first sew in the zipper and then close up the seam, and I like to do that more when my front and my backs are not attached yet. So first I'm gonna attach the skirt parts and then make the zipper in the back. Put in our zipper in the mid back, and I'm going to use an invisible zipper because I think that looks most nice for a dress like this. And it means that you put in your zipper first before you close up the mid back seam. So I pinned that down on one side already, and an invisible zipper means that you stitch very close to the teeth, and I have a sewing class on how to do that. I will link it down in the description box and up here if you like to see that, how to sew in an invisible zipper. Of course you can also do just a normal zipper, but I like this one more. So now it's the time to try it on and make the final adjustments to the fit. So I took in my side seams a little bit more here at the waist because it could be a little bit tighter. I already took in here the darts at the armhole because it was opening a bit too much, that I almost always have. And that is why I hadn't yet made the facings here for the armhole and also for the neck hole, because I also made the neck hole a little bit lower here in the mid front. Sorry. Now we're going to trace our facings to finish the edges here of the neck hole and of the armhole, and you do that just by folding your dress down the middle, matching up your shoulder seams. And what you can do, I always like to pin them together so that I'm sure that they are really together the way they should be. And then you have here your shoulder seam and here your mid front. Then you lay that on top of a piece of paper and then you trace that down. And I already cut mine out, but I can show you how to do that. You just match up your shoulder seam on one part and your mid front on the next one, and then trace that down, trace your mid front, trace your shoulder seam and then your neck hole. And then when you take your dress off of your fabric, you can mark the outer edge of your facing in the length that you want. I made mine 5 centimeters wide, so just mark 5 centimeters all the way around and then trace the outer part of your facing. And you do the same for the back. And again, you just take your back, place that on another piece of paper, and you do the same. You trace your shoulder seam. I'll do it like this, that's easier to see. Again, you trace your shoulder seam, you mark where your mid back is, and make sure you fold your zipper the right way, that the amount of fabric is okay. And then you mark your back neck hole. Again, make your 5 centimeters all around. And I now made my front and my back pattern separate, but you can also connect them at the shoulder seam, that you don't have a seam here, and you just cut it out all the way around, and then you have just one facing. Make sure for sure that you take your mid front. Wait. Yes, that was strange. This is the armhole. I already thought, how is that possible that my front is way bigger than my back? Make sure that you put your mid front on the edge of, or on the fold, so that you don't have a seam here. And then you can certainly, if you want, just connect your shoulders from the front and the back. That is not a problem at all, and then you don't have a seam here. You can also just make them separate and make just a shoulder seam there. That is okay too. And then you just do the same for your armhole. Just place it on another piece of paper. Like that. Then mark your armhole, mark your side seam, mark your shoulder seam, and take your dress off, and then again mark 5 centimeters, or just how wide you want your facing to be. It doesn't really matter, just don't make it too small. Too wide also is not very comfortable, but 5, 6, 7 centimeters is okay. Then mark that down, and then again you can put it on the fold here at the shoulder seam, or you can make a seam here at the shoulder and sew it down on the side. So we're going to make these facings for the neck hole and for both the armholes. You can sew that all around just by pinning it on, right sides together, sewing it down, flipping it to the inside, and of course finishing the outer edge of your facings. And then when you flip it in, you can attach it to all the seams, so to your shoulder seams, to your side seam, and in the back onto your zipper band. So I pinned on all my facings here around the neck hole and around both the armholes after I finish the edges. So I'm gonna sew them on now. Then I flip them inside and do an understitch onto the seam allowance, so that it will stay nicely put down. Is nicely finished now. I pressed down all my facings, but I have to hand stitch them because they won't stay put. So only pressing is not enough for my fabric, but when you have just cotton or viscose, I think just pressing it down and attaching it here on the shoulder seams and the side seams might be okay. But I'll do that last, because you know I hate hand stitching, so I'm not gonna do that now. I'm just gonna finish the hemline of the dress just by making a small walled hem, because it's not really too long, so I don't want it really much shorter. And then we're gonna continue with the fun part, the flounces. But first, hemming the bottom. to try to show you what it would look like with that circle. So I first draw the wider circle on my fabric and make sure you put the one sides together, because then you can draw on your fabric and also pin them together already, so that you have them set for sewing them together when you need the doubled layer fabric. So I made my circle, the circle inside, the circle inside. I could make 3 circles, and I made mine 12.5 centimeters high. That means that when I take off the seam allowance, I have about 11 centimeters high of a flounce, and I think for my sizing that will be enough, otherwise it will be too bulky. I hope it will be okay. If not, well, I cannot make them much higher, because then I don't have enough fabric, and I already had more than 4 meters of fabric, so I'm gonna do that. So I made my circles, and then I cut out my outer circle, and then when you're reaching the end of your circle where you want to start cutting in, you go inward. So this was my outer circle. I cut in here to the next circle, and then again you cut in to the next circle until you reach the middle. And I pinned my fabrics together, as I said. And then what I said in the pattern making, that I wanted to cut the flounces on the diagonal. So the outside circle will be where you put them together, so where you attach them, if you make it doubled up. Otherwise, this is the outside of your flounce. And I said to cut them on a diagonal, but I watched again at the inspiration picture, and I saw that the flounces were almost perpendicular to the seam, and so I cut it now just almost straight on and just rounded out the outer edge, and I think that will be more like the one in the picture. I don't know if it's nice, because when the flounce falls it will be very bulky here at the end, but that's what I saw in the picture, so I'm just gonna try it like that and we'll see how it goes. So what you do now, when you have your circles, you're gonna measure how much you need for one flounce, and my skirt is 50 centimeters, so I measured 50 centimeters on the inner circle, because that's where you're gonna connect it to your skirt. And then I made it put it straight, because because it's a circle, it is almost on a diagonal, and fabric on a diagonal always, it doesn't stretch out, but it gets elongated. So I measured where I marked my 50 centimeters, how much it was then for my flounce, and it was more. So I have now put my pin on 50 centimeters, that's including seam allowance. So that means that the flounce that I need, the length, is around 48 centimeters. Then I add my seam allowance, so I get the 50 that I have pinned down now. So make sure you measure when you put your flounce straight on, how you're gonna connect it to your skirt, how much you need, because it will be most likely less than the length of your skirt because of that curve that it has. And then you can measure the next one 50 centimeters, the next one 50 centimeters, and see how far you can come with one of these circle pieces. And then you do that for as many as your flounces as you need, or as many as fabric as you have, because I'm not sure how many how many I can make. I think I get 4 out of this one circle. I can do this 3 times, so then I have 12, and I wanted, I think 15 or 16 or something. So I'm gonna see how far I can come and how it will go. Oh, and what you do now then is you cut them off here where you marked the first flounce ended, and then you just go straight on to your outer circle and just curve off the edges. So I cut out now my flounces out of that one circle, and I want to show you something, because it makes a difference whether you cut your flounce from the outside of the circles or from the inside. You can see, I think here, this one is from the whole inside of the circles. It has a lot of waves here. This is the next one. It is a little bit less, but still very much, and you see that when you put the inner circle part in a straight line, then you get all those waves. This one is the next one, this one is the next one, and this one is the most outer one. You see this doesn't have really that much of a wave, although my circles were already rather small. So I think it is nicest when you mix these flounces that you don't have this sequence like this, but that this one goes in between that, this one goes in between that, that you have a little bit of a difference between the flounces, that one is more flowy and curvy, one is less, and not that it is from less still more and then again less still more. I don't think that's nice. So I think it's good to switch it up, and you can very easily see it just when you put the inner circle in a straight line which flounce you have. And of course it's not exact, but when you switch it up a little bit, I think it falls more nicely on your skirt. Now you have to see if you need the double fabric like I have here, or if you can do it single layered. If you need the double fabric, then we're gonna sew the flounces together on the outer circle. So sew them all the way and just leave the inner circle open. And then I'm gonna see if I'm gonna need some horsehair, something to reinforce that circle to give it a more nicer flow, or if I can do it just like this. And you cannot really see it now because it is not together, and when you have stitched them together it often just falls differently. So I'm gonna stitch them together and then see what I need to add. I pinned on 2 flounces temporarily to see the difference, and I hope you can see. This is a flounce that I sewed on some horsehair on the seam allowance here of 1 centimeter wide, so that's going all the way from the outside. And this one is just a double fabric, and I think you see the difference between the two. And I must say, I think when I do it like this, it looks more like the inspiration picture. But I think I like more this one because this is really way more flowy, and it moves and it changes. And I think I like this one more, although this is more like the picture was. But this is stiff, and for the front that's not really a problem, I think, but I don't really like it. You see, it doesn't really move. And when you put this on the back, I think you cannot sit down, because when you have 8 flounces here on your bottom and you have to sit down on this stiff parts, I don't think that will be comfortable. So although this one looks more the same, I think I'm going to make it like this, because I just like the looks more of this one. Finally the dress is done, and it looks really funny with all the ruffles. It was quite a project for me, but if you don't have any health problems and you have sometimes, it's really not difficult to do, because it was pretty easy, and it's only just a lot of work to make all these flounces. And especially the finishing, I had to finish now differently than I wanted. I would advise you, if you make this really as a nice dress, or if you make it to sell it, or you make it for someone else, then don't top stitch the other side, but so that by a hand stitch, that you don't see any stitching here. You don't really see it just up close, but I think just for your feeling, it is nice when the finish is really good and really unpolished when you make a dress like this. But it is very nice. I was a little bit afraid that because of all this fabric here, the dress would be too heavy and would hang out, and that I would have to reinforce here the princess seams with some ribbon, that it won't stretch out. But it is, you can feel the weight, but it's really not too heavy, and it feels very nice. I see here the sides open up a bit, so that's not really nice, but I'm really not really happy with the end result because I couldn't make it the way I wanted it. But I think it's a really nice project to do and to make for yourself or for someone else, because I think this is a really nice dress. And I tried to sit down, and with the flounces like this, it's not a problem at all. You can just sit down and this fabric won't really wrinkle, so that's not a problem. When you put the horsehair in, that looked really nice, like the inspiration picture. I really like how that looked, but I think it will not be comfortable, especially for the back. And I put now 9 flounces in the front and 6 in the back. The mid front, the mid back, I don't know if you can see it, I left that open because of the zipper. I didn't want too much flounces in the area of the zipper so that they cannot get into the zipper. Then you have a problem because you have to pull it up where you can see it. But when you have your horsehair here on the back, you really get problems sitting down. And the horsehair is very strict, but also very, what you call it, itchy, or it stings. So I think then you have to stay standing up because it will not be comfortable to sit down. So when you make it like this, I have a mirror there, that's why I'm constantly looking there. You can very easily sit down. It looks really nice. It's nice and flowy. I alternated the flounces, but now when I look in the mirror, I can see that the middle 3 ones are just taking the same flow, and that was not my intention, because I really take different flounces from the circle. But still, I think it's a really nice dress. I like these cap sleeves, you know that I like them. And the fabric doesn't feel too bad. I was a really bit afraid because it felt like that cheap old-fashioned polyester that I really don't like. But I must say, now that I'm wearing it and I did my makeup and things, and I'm not sweaty or whatever, so I think it will be okay. And of course, without the sleeves, it's also helping. So I hope you like this tutorial. I really worked hard for it because I didn't have the energy. It didn't come out the way I wanted it, but I couldn't help it. I finished it and I'm happy with the result. So I hope you like it too. Please give me a thumbs up for my effort, and I will see you next time again with a new project. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.